So this material is actually quite not the same. Like, it's super thin. So with material like this, like instead of a normal as you like normally extract seeds, with this one you don't want to put as much water in, just because the material is just so thin and just overall cheap. So you'll use much less water. So with the extraction part, we're gonna move it a lot quicker and probably not dispense as much water out, just because we don't want to overly saturate this. We have now a mini air mover right there that we'll use to quickly dry the seeds even faster. But with this material, like this type of material, yeah, you want to move faster or somehow not put less, or put less water to not saturate the actual cushion and this part more. And so it's probably hard to tell on camera, just because the settings, the temperature, the whatever, all these camera settings, so you can't really tell like how really dirty it is. But it's quite dirty, so it is gonna greatly benefit from a deep cleaning. This is the bag now we're using. We're putting all our interior stuff here, so now it's super easy. We just grab it right at the van and it's all set to go. We have our pet hair brushes, our regular brushes, upholstery brushes. So really cool. We just pick it up and we're good to go. We'll put some towels in there sometimes. So this car should probably take us, wow, my lens are really dirty. Probably not the best way to clean it, but I'm on the fly. You can tell they look kind of bluish, but yeah, this vehicle should not take us more than an hour and a half on the interior, on max hour and a half on the interior, and like 15 minutes on the exterior. It's just a basic wash, so it should be relatively quick detail. Again, we have the air mover because it's kind of not high humidity, but there's no heat outside, so to speed up the drying process, we'll use the air mover on the seats. That way they can just dry quicker. So for starters, we're gonna move the seats forward and backwards and thoroughly vacuum the entire interior. This includes the seats, the floor mats, the actual carpeting of the car, and in the dashboard center console area. I'm gonna set aside the big chunks somewhere. So here I'm placing it just in the cup holder, just as my placeholder to put all those big chunks. And then I'll take those and just individually put them in a trash bag, and then I'll vacuum everything else up. Just because I want to pick up the light items or the light gunk in the vacuum, and then any of those big chunks that might get caught or just are just too big will be just put in the actual bag. And keep in mind, you guys don't need to spend 30, 45, 60 minutes on vacuuming. You just want to get through the big chunks of the interior, meaning you want to get at least 60, 70, 80% of the vacuuming done, and then vacuum again once you're done at the end of the detail. Don't spend an enormous amount of time just vacuuming, because you're going to spend too much time and end up just taking way longer on the detail. In total, vacuuming in the beginning and then vacuuming at the end of the detail was probably around 12 minutes in total. Next, we're going to move on to the floor mats. This, what I'm using here, is called the Lily brush. It's a pet hair brush, and this company primarily focuses on pet hair brushes, which I'll be reviewing later, but they do have an assortment of different types to help you with pet hair. And all I'm doing is literally going to brush it down all the way to the bottom so I can pile it into just a little pile. And then you could pick it up with your hand and put it in a bag, but I'm just going to go ahead and vacuum it. And then I'll repeat that process until we start extracting, which is actually a little bit later. So right here, since Anthony is working on the interior extracting, I'm sorry, not extracting, cleaning the door panels, I'm going to be just prepping up the floor mats so we can start extracting them later down. Also, in the last video, I had quite a few people tell me about the, you can damage your knees or back working on the ground like this, and completely true. Having a table does help. Just right now, one, we don't have room for another table in our van, and second, I mean, we're only here for about 10 minutes, like working on the ground like this. It feels like for extensive amount of time, then yeah, but eventually I will get a table once we get more room in the van. But for now, it's only 10 minutes. Thank you for the concern. $20.
For another 20.
We don't just steal, we add. No, like we only not steal, we'll add to the money we see.
Is that 2 pennies or you go for 4? Is it not talking for the sake of the video?
Not doing talking. So now fast forwarding it, after we clean the interior bit and such, we get to the floor mats, and I'm using super clean but locally diluted 10-to-1 in that spray bottle. This is the Greats Garage 6-inch polisher with a carpet attachment, and as the spray pump, it's the IK9 pump sprayer with just the normal nozzle, not the foam nozzle. What's causing the foam is just, and I wouldn't really call it foam, it just, you know, spraying down the cleaner and then agitating it with the fabric. So it's not really foam per se. And the next, Anthony is gonna follow up with extracting with the Aqua Pro Vac extractor. That's the one that you've seen in all the videos for the last however many videos. In total, it's I think like 40 bucks for the pump sprayer, 150 for the machine, like 20 for the carpet attachment, and 400 for the extractor. So just that right there is around 600-ish. If I did that math correctly. But remember, if you are doing this as a business, not as a hobby, because, you know, spending that much for, you know, personal use, a bit much. But if you're doing this as a business, I mean, I've used the extractor for at least 50 details now, and I've used that polisher for at least the last 2.5-3 years now, and that's the second brush I bought in for that machine. So it's gonna last you a very long time if you know, take care of it. And once we're done with the extraction, we want to pat down the floor mats to absorb as much water before we put them in the drying. Now that we have that mini air mover, I'm gonna see which ones, if it, you know, if I can just put the air mover without doing this part, and if they still dry just as fast. That way we can eliminate another step in the process.
Yeah, just put it in front, yeah, okay.
So this detail, we did things a bit backwards than we usually do. We, for the most part, completed the entire vehicle, and then we went to the seats. Primarily because we have the air mover, I wanted to see if it was going to dry it fast enough, and just because it's such a small vehicle, I wanted to try things differently. And I'm also going to be using the polisher instead of the upholstery brush, just because of preference. Mostly you could use a carpet upholstery brush, but just wanted to try it with this one. I wasn't putting much liquid into the fabric, just because I don't want to oversaturate it, so you're not going to see that foaming action. It may not even look like I'm cleaning it because I'm putting so little, but because of the fabric, the color of it, the age of it, I wasn't trying to go overly aggressive either. And you'll see when Anthony starts to extract that he's moving a bit faster and just not trying to overly saturate the area with the water as well. Remember, less water, so move it quicker move it quicker on the pulls. I will say though, because we waited to the end of the detail to do the seats, I was a bit more cautious in how I was agitating the seats and how and where I was spraying the seats, because since everything else was already cleaned, that means I didn't want to get overspray and have to work over myself. So typically you want to start with the seats because you're going to get a lot of overspray depending on the type of brush you're using and how much sling is being created. You're going to do double work. So best to start probably with the seats depending on the type of seats, but mostly I 95% of the time start with the seats, extract, and then do everything else, because once I get that done, one, it's the biggest part of the detail, so once I get that done, I'm just about 50% done with the vehicle. And second, if I'm gonna create mess, I want to create the mess before I clean everything else around the interior. Hopefully that makes sense. So the floor mats are now completely dry. It took about, well, we let it run for like 20 minutes, but probably in like 15, they're 90% dry. Now we're gonna move the air mover to the vehicle there and set it there so it can dry while we just do a basic wash. I want to show you guys more of the extraction and such, but I keep on missing deadlines with this camera, so I didn't record much with the extraction. My bad, but now we're gonna move on to I cleaned the windows and glass already. Anthony's vacuuming one last time, and that's it. And we're just gonna put the air mover in, the floor mats in. So the air mover is gonna dry the seats, floor mats they're dry, we're just putting them back in, and then the quick wash. And there's multiple ways to use this air mover. I just want to give you a quick video, but you can sort it however you want across the interior to make it work.